I'm 22, and I met my boyfriend, he's 24 now, around 3 years ago through a group of mutual friends from college. We were all hanging out at this house party, and I noticed him off in the corner, not saying a word to anyone. At first, I assumed he was one of those stuck-up guys who thinks he's too cool to mingle. But then our friend Jake came over and introduced us. He explained that my boyfriend wasn't arrogant, just painfully shy around new people. Back then, he was really reserved, barely said anything when we first met. I was the one who chased him, honestly. I thought he was cute, and I liked that quiet, mysterious vibe he gave off. We traded numbers that night, but he never actually messaged me. After waiting a few days, I caved and texted him first. It took forever for him to respond, but eventually, we started talking more and more. For a while, we were doing long distance. I was in Oregon finishing college, and he was working for a tech company up in Washington. It was rough, we were about 4 hours apart, but we made it work by alternating weekend visits. The drive sucked, but we took turns and pushed through. After I graduated, I ended up moving in with him because there were way more job openings in his city anyway. Now, here's where things start to get complicated. Before me, he only had one serious relationship and a random hookup he doesn't talk to anymore. Apparently, the hookup girl was crazy, his words, not mine. But his ex? He stayed friends with her for a long time, up until about 2 years ago when she suddenly cut him off. They dated back when they were teenagers, maybe for 2 years or so. According to him, she broke up with him because he had no self-respect. That's literally how he phrased it. Whenever I asked what that meant, he'd just shut down or give me some vague line like, "I was different back then," or "I let people walk all over me." I'll admit, I was always kind of jealous of her. I've seen pictures, and yeah, she's beautiful. But it wasn't just that. It was the way he talked about her, like she had all the answers to life's biggest questions. He'd drop these weird gems like, "My ex always said never settle for less than you deserve," or "My ex believed people who do X are just overcompensating." It drove me nuts. But I didn't say anything for the longest time because I didn't want to seem jealous or insecure. In the early days of our relationship, I was trying so hard to be the cool girlfriend who didn't make drama over exes or petty stuff. I remember this one dinner with some of his coworkers, and someone brought up relationship advice. Right away, he launched into this, "Well, my ex used to say," speech and went on for like 5 minutes about how wise she was. I just sat there, shrinking into myself, while his friends exchanged glances. No one said a word, but I could feel the awkwardness in the air. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locked the stall door, and tried not to cry. By the time I came back, they'd moved on to another topic. And honestly, when she finally stopped talking to him, I felt relieved. I figured maybe he'd finally let her go for real. For a while, it even seemed like things were getting better. He opened up a little more, and we were genuinely happy, or so I thought. Then in January, pretty sure it was a Tuesday or Wednesday night, I woke up around 3 a.m. needing to pee. But when I reached over, he wasn't in bed. I heard strange sounds coming from the living room, so I went to check. There he was, sitting on the couch in total darkness, quietly sniffling. The glow of his phone lit up his face, and it was obvious he'd been crying. I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me thought I should give him privacy, let him have his moment. But when he got up to go to the bathroom, I did something I'm not proud of. I peeked at his phone. He had Facebook open and was looking at his ex's profile. She'd just gotten engaged. Her feed was full of ring photos, pictures of her fiancé, and the two of them looking disgustingly happy. I quickly slipped back to bed and pretended to be asleep when he returned. I felt him lie down next to me, moving slowly so he wouldn't wake me up. He was still sniffling, and it took him a while to fall asleep. Meanwhile, I just laid there staring at the ceiling, completely thrown off and not sure what the hell I was supposed to do. The next morning, he acted totally normal. Made us coffee, kissed me goodbye before work, sent his usual lunch text. I kept expecting him to bring it up or act weird, but nothing. So, I didn't bring it up either. Maybe it was just a one-time emotional reaction. Seeing your ex get engaged is bound to stir something up, even if you've moved on, right? But it didn't stop. A few nights later, same thing. Then again the next week. And now, 2 months in, it's becoming a pattern. We'll be watching a show, and suddenly he'll just disappear into the bathroom for 20 minutes. I can hear him crying behind the door. Or we'll be falling asleep, and I'll feel the bed shake slightly because he's silently sobbing with his back turned to me. It's honestly getting really uncomfortable. Every time I try to talk to him about it, he brushes me off with "I'm fine" or "I'm just tired." One time, he said he was crying over his childhood dog who died when he was 15. Another time it was a sad commercial. Like, come on. I'm not an idiot. He's clearly not telling me the truth. Last week, I finally snapped. I told him maybe he should consider therapy. He got defensive fast and told me he doesn't believe in therapy, that it's a scam to take your money without helping you. We ended up arguing, which almost never happens between us because he usually shuts down during conflict. He said therapy's for people who are too weak to solve their own problems and insisted he just needed time. But this keeps happening, at least twice a week. I love him, I really do, but he's always been kind of emotionally distant, and now I'm starting to wonder if his ex is the root of all this. Maybe when she cut him off, she said something that hit him hard. He didn't act like this when she was just dating other guys, but ever since that engagement post, he's been spiraling. I even found her Instagram. I haven't messaged her, but I've been tempted. Maybe she knows something that could help me understand what's going on. I know it sounds a little unhinged, but I'm seriously out of options here. My best friend keeps telling me to just leave, that I'm wasting time being someone's backup plan. But is that really what this is? He's been with me for 3 years. He asked me to move in with him. That has to count for something, right? Yesterday morning, I tried bringing it up again. We were eating breakfast and I just blurted out, "Are you still in love with your ex?" He looked at me like I'd grown a second head and said, "What? No, of course not. Why would you even ask that?" I explained how I've seen him crying more lately and that it all seemed to start around the time his ex got engaged. He got super defensive and said it had nothing to do with her, that he was just overwhelmed at work and not sleeping well. After I asked him that question over breakfast, he didn't say much. He just got up and left for work without even finishing his meal. I've been sitting here trying to wrap my head around all of it, feeling more lost than ever. He's at work right now, and I'm home alone, stuck in my thoughts. There's something I forgot to mention earlier when I brought up therapy the other day. He threw this comment at me: "You wouldn't understand because you haven't been through what I've been through." That completely threw me. Like, what is that even supposed to mean? We've been together for 3 years. We've lived together nearly a year now, and I still feel like he's a stranger in some ways. Someone in the comments asked if I ever talked to any of his friends about what's been going on. The truth is, no. Most of his close friends also happen to be tight with his ex, they all went to high school together. The few that I've connected with live in other states, so we rarely talk. And honestly, even if we did, I'd feel weird dragging them into something like this. Another thing just came back to me months ago, before all this crying and emotional shutdown started. He told me that his ex randomly texted him to catch up. He even showed me the message, which I appreciated at the time, and asked if I'd be okay with him replying. I said yes, and that was the last I ever heard about it. I assumed it was nothing, just a brief conversation between old friends. Now, I'm not so sure. And now, well, I think it's really over. I called my dad this morning and asked if he could come help me move back home. The past few days have been a complete emotional roller coaster. Yesterday, my boyfriend disappeared. He was already gone when I woke up, which didn't seem weird at first. I figured he'd left early for work. But the day dragged on, and when it got to be bedtime and he still wasn't home, I started getting anxious. I'd sent him a good morning text when I first woke up, then 2 more messages later asking if he'd be home for dinner and if everything was okay. I even called, but no answer. At first, I was just concerned. Then I started getting mad. Finally, I called his office, thinking maybe he was working late. But the receptionist told me he had left at his usual time. I called a couple of his friends, none of them had heard from him either. By that point, I was panicking. I seriously thought something bad had happened, like maybe he'd been in an accident. I was about to call the police when I finally got a text from him at 11 p.m. All it said was, "Sorry. Need some time to think. I'll be home tomorrow." That was it. No explanation, no apology, nothing. I was so hurt and so angry, and I needed answers. So yeah, I snooped. I went through his laptop. I've only done it once before, a long time ago when I was feeling anxious about his friendship with his ex. But this time felt different. Something wasn't right, and I had to know. Buried inside a bunch of random folders, I found a Word document named after his ex. I opened it. It looked like a copy of their last conversation, the one right before she cut him off. At first, it was pretty casual. They were catching up, talking about what they'd been up to. Then he asked her how things were going with her boyfriend, now fiancé. She said she was happy. And that's when it got weird. He said something like, "Are you really sure?" She asked why he was acting strange, and he replied, "I just don't believe you're that happy." I couldn't memorize everything, I was shaking while reading it, but he basically told her that her fiancé would never love her the way he did. He went on about how they had history, how they'd grown together after the breakup, and how she should consider giving him another chance. Then came the bombshell. He told her he had waited all these years for her. That he loved her. That he always believed they were meant to end up together. And all of that happened while he was dating me. She absolutely went off on him, and rightfully so. She told him he was out of line and reminded him she had been clear years ago that they would only ever be friends. She even said he had no business saying any of that while they were both in relationships. She told him to break up with me and let me go because I deserved better. The worst part? That morning, around 6 a.m., he finally came home. I was asleep, but he woke me up not by coming into the room, but by calling my phone from inside the apartment. He asked me to come to the kitchen because he'd made breakfast. So I went out there, and he had this whole setup, fancy breakfast, candles, and right in the middle of the table was a ring box. I opened it. Yep, an engagement ring. Then he gave this cheesy little speech about how the past 3 years had been an adventure, and how he wanted to keep making new adventures together. That was the moment I snapped. Everything I'd been ignoring or trying to rationalize came flooding in, and I just lost it. I demanded to know where he'd been, why he ignored my messages, why he's been crying about his ex for months. I wanted the truth. And he had the nerve to get mad at me for being mad. He acted like I was ruining a beautiful moment. He actually said I should be happy because he was proposing. Wasn't that what I wanted? When I asked why he'd propose when it's so clear he still wants to be with her, he said, well, she's obviously moved on, so now I have to move on too. I've never felt such rage. I've put my heart and soul into this man. I've been patient. I've shown grace. I moved cities for him. And now he thinks I should marry him because plan A is no longer an option? No. Absolutely not. I'm not signing up to be someone's backup. The sad part is, if he proposed 4 months ago, before all of this, I would have said yes without hesitation. But now, it just shattered everything. So I called my dad in tears. He's on his way to help me pack and move back to my parents' place. I've already boxed up most of my important stuff, but I'll need to come back later for the rest. Meanwhile, my now ex-boyfriend is just sitting on the couch with his laptop like nothing happened. I don't even know how to respond to that level of detachment. As I packed, he kept asking me why I was overreacting and insisting I was throwing away something good. When I brought up the document I found, he flipped out, said I had no right to go through his private files. Then he tried to downplay it, saying it was an old conversation from a different mindset, back when he was confused. But when I pointed out how he reacted to her engagement and how that clearly shows he's still not over her, he had nothing to say. He just shut down and went quiet. My dad will be here soon. I'll grab what I can for now and come back for the rest later. I honestly don't even know if I want to say anything to him before I leave. Part of me wants to scream at him for wasting 3 years of my life. But the bigger part? It just wants to get out and be done. Thank you all for helping me see the reality of this relationship. I read every comment, even if I didn't respond. A lot of you warned me this might be the case, that he was with me because he couldn't have her. I didn't want to believe it, but now, it's clear you were right. Update 2: I took a break from Reddit for a bit. My brain was fried and I needed space to just breathe. But I logged in today and saw a few messages asking for an update. So here it is. After I left, things were weirdly quiet for about a week. My ex texted me a couple of times, saying we needed to talk, asking me to come back. I didn't answer. I was curled up in my old bedroom at my parents' house, just trying to make sense of everything that had happened. My mom was incredibly supportive after I moved back in. She started cooking all my favorite meals and gave me space without pushing for details. But then things took a weird turn. Out of nowhere, my ex started reaching out to my friends, including some we had in common. He asked if he could use their Skype accounts to get in touch with me. On top of that, he started telling people that I stole things from him when I left. Naturally, my friends called me, confused and concerned. They all said they didn't believe it for a second because it's just not like me, but they still wanted to understand why he was acting so frantic. I didn't feel ready to lay it all out. To be honest, I wasn't sure anyone would even believe the full story. So I just said I didn't know what was going on and begged them not to give him access to their Skype accounts. Most of them respected that. A few days later, the phone calls started and didn't stop. I kept getting calls from all these unknown numbers, dozens of them each day. One number would call 20 times in a row, then the next day it would be a completely different number doing the same thing. I had to change my phone settings to block all calls unless they were from people already in my contacts. That helped a bit, but even though we couldn't get through, the constant harassment made me feel completely paranoid and cut off from the world. I couldn't make sense of it. What was his goal? Did he honestly think that if he annoyed me enough, I'd give in and talk to him? Did he believe his own story about me stealing something, or was that just a lame excuse to force contact? None of it added up. One of the creepiest moments happened when I was grabbing coffee with a friend. I could have sworn I saw his car in the parking lot. I pointed it out, but by the time we looked again, it had vanished. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe not. But either way, it seriously freaked me out. After that, I got a lot more careful about sharing where I was going and who I was going with. A few days into all this chaos, I finally broke down and told my mom every detail I'd been bottling up. She didn't say much. She just listened while I cried and let it all out. Once I finished, she told me she was proud of me for walking away and that there was no reason I should go through this alone. She explained that she didn't want to pressure me into opening up until I was ready, but now that I had, it was time to lean on the people who actually care about me. She helped me change my phone number and encouraged me to start calling my friends, to reconnect, and to tell them the truth. I was terrified that they'd take his side, that they'd think I overreacted or misread the whole proposal situation. I thought they'd say I was being petty or that I should have appreciated the fact that he moved on and proposed. But I couldn't have been more wrong. The support I got from my friends blew me away. Turns out, my ex had been going around telling people we broke up because I was jealous of his ex and insecure in the relationship. But once I explained what really happened, so many people said it all suddenly made sense. They told me I'd made the right call and promised they were behind me no matter what. That was the moment a huge weight lifted off my chest. I finally felt like I wasn't crazy for walking away. Since then, I've been trying to go out more, spend time with people who make me feel normal again. So that's where things stood, at least for a while. I've decided to start therapy soon. I don't have any life-changing advice to offer, but what my mom told me has stuck with me. Surround yourself with people who genuinely care about you. That's been my anchor through all of this. Update 3 Hi again, Reddit. It's been a while. I wanted to pop back in to share a quick update and to say I'm sorry for not responding to any of the comments on my last post. I wasn't in a good headspace, and I needed time to process everything privately. It's been about 3 months since I left my ex and moved back in with my parents. Things have started to calm down, thank God. First bit of news, the engagement ring. Yeah, that one. A few weeks after my last post, he mailed it to me in a small padded envelope. No note, no explanation, just the ring. I didn't know what to do. Was that the item he claimed I stole? Was he sending it back out of guilt? I wasn't about to mail it back, just in case he tried to pull some nonsense and claim he never got it. So my dad volunteered to return it himself. He handed it over in person. I didn't ask what was said, if anything. My dad's not the type to cause drama, but I know he was furious about everything. Part of me wanted to know if it was a real diamond, if it was expensive or just looked nice, but I never took it to get appraised. Didn't care to. All I could think was that I almost wore that ring thinking it represented our love, when in reality, it was just a sad little backup plan because the woman he really wanted said no. That realization still stings. Second thing, this one's wild. Apparently, a couple of weeks ago, my ex bought a plane ticket and flew to New York City to try and talk to his ex somehow. He figured out where she worked, showed up outside the building, and waited there all day. Like some rom-com stalker character. I don't know how it played out, but from what I've heard, she didn't come back with him. So I'm guessing it didn't go the way he hoped. It's insane to think I dated someone who would go that far. But honestly, every time I hear stuff like this, it reinforces the fact that leaving him was the best decision I've ever made. One of his close friends told me that after he got back from New York, he completely fell apart. He got drunk at a bar and started telling everyone he'd lost the 2 most important women in his life and didn't know how to fix it. He even begged that friend to talk to me on his behalf, but they refused. I was really thankful for that. I want no more drama. I've still been staying at my parents' place. I love them, I really do, but living with them again as an adult has been challenging. My mom checks in constantly, asks if I've eaten, how I'm sleeping, if I'm okay emotionally. My dad's more laid back, but he watches me with this quiet, worried look. I know they mean well, but it can feel a bit smothering. I've been searching for a place of my own, a small apartment where I can just breathe and be alone for a while, but the rental market is brutal right now. The good news is that I landed a paid internship about a month ago. It could turn into a full-time position, and so far, I absolutely love it. It's a small company, just 20 people or so, but everyone's been super warm and welcoming. There's even a little Friday happy hour group, and they've invited me a few times. It feels good to be around people again. My last job was remote, so I rarely got to know my coworkers. This is the first time in a long time that I feel like I belong somewhere. And, okay, I'll admit this, there's this guy at work. He's the one who hired me. We're about the same age, and no, nothing's happening there. I'm nowhere near ready for another relationship. But he's just one of the kindest, most well-mannered people I've ever met. Always polite. Always smiling. Being around him makes me feel calm. It's not like I want to date him or anything. What it does make me realize is that I should be with someone who brings peace into my life, not chaos. Someone who makes me feel good about myself without even trying. That's where I'm at now. Honestly, I hope I don't have to write another update. I'm kind of over the drama, and I'm ready for peace. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. Truly.